Thank you very much for welcoming you to Mathzone African Motives. Today, good people, I want us to look at economics paper 2, and we are going to look at the essay question. We're going to look at the essay question. So this is in relation to term 4, whereby we are trying to make a preparation and revision so that you are going to be ready for the exams that you're going to sit on. So we are going to look at the essay for paper 2, return. So we know very well that essay is section C. So section C, it says answer any one of the two questions in this section in the answer book. So as we are asked to answer only one question in this section, as you're going to attend to two of those questions, so that we know very well that when the exams comes, we are ready for and prepared to write an essay question on economics, paper 2. So this paper was written in Northwest in November 2024. So now we are told that the structure of an essay, your answer will be assessed as follows. Then we are given the structure of an essay. So in an essay, we have to have what? Introduction. So the introduction, as it says, the introduction is a lower order response. So a good starting point will be to define the main concept related to the question topic. Do not include any part of question in your introduction. Do not repeat any part of the introduction in the body. Avoid mentioning in the introduction what you're going to discuss in the body. So that is that. So now coming to the body. So the body now, as it says, is the main part. Discuss in detail or in depth discussion or examine, critically discuss or analyze or compare, evaluate, distinguish, differentiate, and explain or assess or debate. So here we are given a maximum of 80 marks may be allocated for heading as well as example. Additional part, critically discuss or evaluate or critically. Evaluate, deduce, compare, distinguish, suggest, interpret, debate. So a maximum of 2 marks may be allocated for mere listing of facts. So now coming to the conclusion. So conclusion is any higher order conclusion should include a brief summary of what has been discussed without repeating facts already mentioned. Any opinion or value judgment on the facts discussed. Additional support information to strengthen the discussion analysis. A contradictory viewpoint with motivation if required, as well as what? Recommendations. So this is how your essay is going to be assessed based. So it's going to be assessed based on the following points that you've just read. So now let us come to the question 5. Question 5, microeconomics. So you know that you're going to be awarded 40 marks for this question, or the question that you're going to answer. Either it's 5 or 6, but as like I said, you're going to make sure that we attend to both question 5 and 6. So question 5, discuss in detail the methods that government uses to intervene in the economy. The methods that government uses to intervene with in the economy. And again, how can the efficiency of the state-owned enterprise be improved? So these are the two aspects that you're going to write our essay based on. So let us quickly attend to question 5. Let us quickly attend to Question 5. So here we are on our responses, on our answers on question 5, section C. As we are on microeconomics. So we know very well the question was discussing detailed methods that the government uses to interfere in the economy. How can the efficiency of the state-owned enterprise be improved? So like they've said, we're going to start with what? Introduction. So here is our introduction. The government intervenes in the market to optimize production and allocation of resources. The public sector or government includes all aspects of local, regional, and national government. So you accept any correct or relevant response. So now let us come to our body now, which we've said the body is what? The main part. Now we are going to talk about the indirect what? Indirect tax. We're going to talk about the indirect tax. So when you talk about the indirect tax, when you're talking about the indirect tax, we are talking about a tax added to the price of goods and services. We are talking about the tax added to the price of goods and services. The price of goods and services, like we're talking about like VAT or tax on alcohol and cigarettes. And we know very well this increases price to reduce consumption and raise what? Government revenue. That is that. So as it says here under indirect tax, an indirect tax is paid indirectly by consumers through the purchase of what? Goods and services. So there are 3 kinds of indirect tax, that is VAT, excise duties, as well as charged on locally produced goods and customer duties, which are charged on the imports. So that is that. So by imposing the tax, the government directly influences the price, which increases the price of the consumer, increases the price the consumer pays. So that is what we have said. This tax is added to the price of goods and services, as to increase the price to reduce consumption or raise government revenue. That is what it is. What important it is. It increases the price and it increases the price to reduce consumption or raise what? Government revenues. So let us move on. Now we come to the subsidies. We come to the subsidies. So when we're talking about the subsidies now, we are talking about the financial support the government gives. We are talking about financial support the government gives. The government gives to producers. Give to producers to lower their production cost. To lower their production costs. To lower their production costs. This helps make goods cheaper and encourages more production, e.g., subsidies to farmers. So that is that. So as it says, the government provides subsidies to producers in order to encourage them to increase what? The production of goods. Supply increases. That's what it means. So producer subsidies are often given to suppliers of agricultural products such as milk, wheat, and maize. So subsidies lower the cost of producing goods, and thus the market price of these goods is lowered. Products are sold at cheaper. Hope we are together on that. Now let us move on to welfare. Let us move on to welfare. Let us move on to welfare. So now with welfare, we're talking about the government programs that provide money and service to people in need. We are talking about what? Government. We are talking about government programs that provide money, or services, or service to people in need. To people in need, like social grants, housing, free healthcare. This helps reduce poverty and inequality. As it says, due to the uneven distribution of wealth, welfare grants are provided for people to meet their basic needs. To meet what? Their basic needs like housing, the healthcare, food, parcels, and stuff. So the government provides merit goods and also supplements the income of poor people. Cash grants, old age pensions, disability, child care grants are used. So that's when we're talking about what? The welfare. So now let us move on to production. Let us move on to production. So we are on production. So production now, that is where we can say now the government may support or directly produce certain goods or services. The government may support, the government may support or directly produce certain goods, directly produce certain goods or services and services. That's what it means when you're talking about production. You can talk about electricity, water, and transport to ensure essential goods are available to everyone. Hope we are still on one page. Let us move on. So as it says, government provides goods and services which are not provided by the private sector. Government provides goods and services which are not provided by what? By private sector. So this is where the government may support directly produce certain goods, like I've said about the electricity, water. Those are the goods or the services that cannot be produced or provided by the private sector. These goods are non-rival and non-excludable. Easy protection services, parks, streets, refuse removal. So those are the goods that are provided by government, and those are the goods that cannot be provided by the private sector. So that is that. So now we are on minimum wage. Minimum wage. As you can see that we have one a graph. As you can see, we have a graph, and then we can give explanation of this graph. As you can see, if we have a axis, and on the vertical axis shows what the wage rate. Vertical axis, which is this one, it shows what the it shows the wage rate. As you can see here, it's our wage rate. And the horizontal axis shows the quantity. It shows what? The quantity of labor. Here is our horizontal axis that shows what? The quantity of labor. So at the point E here, it shows what? The point E is equilibrium point. This one is called what? Equilibrium point. It's equilibrium point. Where we know very well there at equilibrium point E, this point E is where demand for labor equals supply of labor. That's what it means. So that is at this point, the equilibrium wage is W, which is this one. So you can see that this W, and the equilibrium quantity is Q. As you can see here, we have what? Our Q. So now we can talk about the minimum wage line. That the minimum wage line is set above the equilibrium wage. As you can see, this is our minimum wage line. This is our minimum wage line. As you can see now, it's set above the equilibrium wage at the higher level. So at the higher level. So the minimum wage line, as we have said, is set above the equilibrium. It's set above the equilibrium wage. So this means employers are not allowed to pay less than that amount. So as when it is here, it shows that the employers are not allowed to pay less than this amount. That is what it means when it is above what? The equilibrium wage. So what are the effects of this? It means that at a higher minimum wage, employers demand less labor. That is that. At the higher minimum wage, that employers demand what? Less labor. As you can see, the quantity here, Q1, they are here. So it shows that employers demand less labor because now they are to pay. They are not allowed to pay less than that amount that shown. So it simply says now the quantity of labor is going to be reduced, going to be less. But if you come to Q2 here, that is where it shows that more workers are willing to work. That is where now we have this quantity that from here to here now, it shows that now more workers are willing to work. So the difference now between Q2, difference between Q2 and Q1 shows unemployment. Difference between this one, Q2 and Q1 shows what? Unemployment, because there are more people wanting jobs than jobs available. Hope we are together on this explanation of the minimum wage graph. Hope we are together on that. So now let us move on. Is we have some points there beneath the graph. When the government enforces a minimum wage, it means workers have to be paid certain wage amount and not anything less than this. So this is when we're talking about the minimum wage. So we have said, like we've already explained that is when employers are not allowed to pay less than this minimum wage. So the reason for this is that workers should earn wages which is enough to cover their basic cost of living. That is that. This helps to protect workers and reallocate what resources. So like they said, the minimum wage of 25 rand 42 per hour increased to 27 rand per hour with effect on 1 March 2024. So it means if the government increases the minimum wage from 25 rand 42 hour to 27 rand 58 hour, as shown, as this point says, it simply says employers may hire fewer workers. May hire how many? Fewer workers. But those who remain employed will earn more. That is that. Hope we understand about this graph. So let us move on to maximum prices. Let us move on to maximum prices. So if you on maximum prices, let us briefly try by all means to explain or give explanation of this graph, maximum prices. As you can see, we have the axis, and the vertical axis shows the price, which is this one. It shows what? The price. That is the vertical axis shows the price of the goods or services. But the horizontal axis shows the quantity demanded and supplied. We are here. It shows the quantity demanded and supplied. So that is that. So as you can see here, still here on the graph, you can see that the equilibrium point here, this is our equilibrium point E, where we are saying the point E is where demand equals supply. This point is where demand equals supply. So at this point, the equilibrium price is P and the equilibrium quantity is Q. That is that. The equilibrium quantity is what? Is P, and we know that the equilibrium quantity is Q. So the maximum price line now. Let's talk about the maximum price line. So the maximum price line here, the maximum price P1 is set below the equilibrium price P. The maximum price P1 here is our maximum price P1. We can now see that it's set below the equilibrium price P, which is here. You see, which is here. Is set below the equilibrium price P. That is that. So this is the highest the price sellers are legally allowed to charge here on P1. This is what the highest price sellers legally allowed to charge. Meaning to say, the government said it to make essential goods affordable for consumers. We can talk about goods like food, petrol, as well as the housing. What are the effects of these things? Very important. At a lower price P1, consumers demand more. It means now the quantity is going to increase because they can afford. Producers supply less. That is when you're talking about Q1. They are going to supply less because now the price is low. This is going to create what? A shortage of goods shown by the gap between Q1 as well as what? Q2. Hope we are together with people. Hope we are still on one page, ladies and gentlemen of higher society. So what are the key purpose of this? The key purpose of this is that we are trying to protect consumers from high prices and make necessities affordable. We did talk about those necessities like food and housing and etc. This result leads to a shortage as demand is greater than supply. Now we know very well that demand is going to be greater than supply. So that is that we did make an example where we're talking about here in South Africa, petrol, diesel, paraffin, some basic foods have maximum price set by the government. So now here are the points given. A maximum price is set on the goods such as basic foods, like we have said, housing, as well as transport. In South Africa, the price of petrol, diesel, fuel, paraffin are controlled at the maximum price. That is where we are trying by all means to make those necessities to be avoidable. Initially, the market equilibrium price, which is P, this one, and the equilibrium quantity is Q. This is equilibrium price is P, you can see, and the equilibrium quantity is Q, as you can see. This is our Q. So now let us move on with people. So now it further on says the government intervene and passes a law that certain product, such as milk, cannot be sold more than P1. So they have to be below. They cannot be sold more than P1. They are supposed to be at P1. So the effect of this maximum price is that quantity supplied decreases to Q1, and the quantity demanded, we know that is going to increase because now they can afford the consumers. So they are going to that demand more, while at least the supply now is going to decrease, which is going to lead to a shortage now. So there is a shortage of the product milk equal to the difference between quantity or Q1 as well as Q2. So it shortage creates a problem now of how to allocate the product milk to consumers. Black markets were often developed where people can obtain the product milk. So we're talking about a black market is an illegal market in which either illegal goods are bought and sold or illegal prices are charged. So that is that. So now let us move on to minimum price. Let us move on to minimum price. Let us move on to minimum price. So as you can see this, so you can go through this graph, you can see this is our minimum price. You see, it is above what? It is above our equilibrium price. So that is when it's going to result with surplus. So when you're talking about the minimum price, that is a set price below which the product cannot be sold, like in agriculture. This one, it protects now producers from very low market prices and helps them earn a fair income. Helps them to earn what? A fair income. As it further on says, the government set a minimum price at some point above the market price. So this is above what? The market price, as you can see. This is done to enable producers to make a comfortable profit and thus encourage them to supply important essential goods. So this allows, with this minimum price, it allows and motivates the producers to produce more. So the market equilibrium price is P. This is that. And the equilibrium quantity is Q. We're talking about this Q. So if the government sets a minimum price at P, suppliers will earn greater profits and supply more of the product. So that is that. So quantity supplied will therefore increase to quantity 2. The quantity supplied, you're talking about the supply. So the quantity that is going to be supplied will therefore increase to quantity 2. Will increase here. Will come to quantity 2. However, quantity demand will decrease to Q1. So here we have increase. Here we know it will now decrease in Q1 because of now the price, the higher prices that are charged above the price, the equilibrium price. So it means now the quantity that is going to be demanded now is going to decrease. That's what it means. That's what it means. So you're going to have more supply that is, the supply is going to be more than the demand. So a surplus means the government will have to buy extra wheat and dump it locally or abroad, because now we are going to have excess supply. We're going to have excess supply. Although minimum price may cause suppliers, they do encourage the supply of important food stuff. So that is that, people. So let us move on. So now we are on additional part. We are on additional part to the aspects, to the body that we have discussed. So the additional parts are the following points. By forming private-public partnership to enable a faster or more efficient delivery of goods and safety. That is why you're forming a private-public partnership, whereby the two sectors are going to partner so as to enable faster and more efficient delivery of goods and services to the consumers. Setting clear costing and development mandates with financial implications clearly set out. Developing a framework for the appointment of remuneration of the members of the board of state-owned companies, ensuring efficient management and accountability. Focusing on scarce resources for highest financial impact. For example, encouraging competitive work culture by hiring and retaining talented individuals through competitive compensation packages. By privatizing state-owned enterprise to ensure efficiency and competitiveness, strengthening internal and external audit control systems to reduce corruption. So now we are to conclude question 5. And this is how we concluded. The intervention of government ensures that efficiencies is eliminated and that the market is operating effectively. So this is the end of question 5. And we are to move on to question 6. Here we are on our question 6. As it reads as follows. This is a contemporary economic issues. Then you have to get 40 marks even on this question. And you have to spend what? How many minutes? 40 minutes. So it reads as follows. With reference to the cause and effect, discuss unemployment in detail. That is the first aspect that we are asked to do. How do public works program help in reducing the rate of unemployment in the country? So let's quickly go to our answers on question 6. So here we are on our answers on question 6. Here we are on our answers on question 6. That is the contemporary economic issues. So as you remember that it says with reference to the causes of effect, discuss what unemployment in detail. How do public programs help in reducing the rate of unemployment? So like question 5, we're going to start with what? The introduction. Unemployment are those people who are able and willing to work. They form part of what? Unemployment. People with necessary skills, people who are competent. They can be able to work, but they can't find what they work. That's what it means. So they are between the age of 16 to 64 and who are actively looking for work, but are unable to find work. That's what it means about the unemployment. That is the introduction that we can give. So now we come to the body part, the main part of the essay. Lack of suitable skills. Now we're going to talk about lack of suitable skills. So with lack of suitable skills, it's because what many people do not have the education or training needed for available jobs. That's what it means. Many people do not have the education, or training needed. For available jobs. That is that. For example, a person may find himself without computer skills. cannot get a job in an office. That's what it means. So the points that are given here under lack of suitable job, demand for unskilled labor in South Africa has dropped due to structural changes in the economy, technological advances, as well as participation in the global economy. So there is oversupply of unskilled workers in the economy. We cannot find jobs because the education system has not given learners the adequate mathematical, scientific skills needed. So that's what it means. So now let us move on to another point or aspect. More capital intensive industries or technological changes. More capital intensive industries or technological changes. So we're talking about businesses more change. That's another cause of unemployment. Business uses more machines, more machines and technology. And technology instead of human workers. Instead of human workers. So that's what it means. So like it says, production of high quality goods for world markets has led to business investing in machinery and technology. And since this business would need less labor, this adds to unemployment. Hope we are together on that. So now we come to trade unions and labor legislation. Trade unions and labor legislation. So we know that strict labor laws and high wage demands by unions can make hiring workers expensive, can make hiring of workers expensive. So now let us quickly go to the points that are mentioned under trade unions. The demands of trade unions for increased wages results in South African products being more expensive than imported goods. The demand of trade unions of increased wages results in South African products being more expensive than imported goods. So this leads to many firms being forced to close as they can no longer compete, which ultimately leads to thousands of workers losing what? Their jobs. That is what it means. So it means employers may hire fewer workers to save costs. That's what it means because of strict laws and high wage demands by unions can make hiring workers be expensive. Now strikes strikes for additional employment are also very bad as firms make less profit and cannot afford to increase what employment. So it means now they will hire a few workers. So South African workers are protected by labor laws. So these laws may not be flexible enough and actually discourage the employers from taking on more workers, particularly those governing dismissal and minimum wages. So you see now the hiring is going to be lowered by the laws, strict labor laws. Increasing of the wages can lead employers to hire fewer workers and the production is going to be affected that way. Sometimes labor legislation encourages firms to change from labor intensive to capital intensive methods of production. So once it is like that, it simply says more machines are going to use, technology is going to use, so that is going to as well make the human people or human workers to not be hired. Now we come to the world recession. Now we come to the world recession. The world recession. So when I talk of the world recession, when the global economy slows down, demand for goods falls, and companies close and reduce staff. That's what it means. That's what it means. When the global economy slows down, we're saying when global economy slows down, demand for goods falls. Demand for goods falls and companies close. Companies, the companies now close or reduce that. That is that. As it says, the world recession of 2008 and 2009 has resulted in a severe downturn in the business cycle and has led to loss of more than 1 million jobs in the South African economy. So a consumer demand drops. Firms have to reduce their output, which results in many workers being repressed. So that's what it means. Now let us come to the population growth now. Let us come to the population growth. Here we are on our population growth. More people enter the job market each year, but there are not enough jobs for everyone. That is that. And this increases competition for limited employment opportunities. As it is, with South African population growing too fast, the economy cannot provide what jobs for all who are entering the job market since 2011. Since 2011, the levels of economic growth have not been higher enough to absorb majority of new job seekers. If the population growth exceeds the economic growth, it causes what? Unemployment. That is in short like that. Now we come to the low rate of economy, low rate of economic growth. So we're talking about a low rate of economic growth. We are simply talking about when the economy grows slowly, business do not expand and create new jobs. That's what it means. That's what it means when you say when the economy grows slowly, when the economy grows slowly, means now the businesses do not expand. Businesses do not expand and create new jobs or create new jobs. So as if the South African economy is not grown enough to create a large number of jobs needed to absorb job seekers. That is that. So now let's come to the effects of unemployment. The effects of unemployment. The effect of unemployment. Unemployment has a negative effect on economic, social, as well as political conditions in the country. The effects on household and individuals. Effects of unemployment on household and as well as individual. So there will be what? More poverty. If people find themselves without jobs, so it means that alone it implies what? The poverty. So now people are going to struggle to get food. You see, less consumer spending. So if people find themselves without jobs, it means now they are not going to spend more because they don't have money to buy. So there will be less consumer spending. Then that is going to affect businesses because now the sales are going to short. Lower standard of living. So the standard of living is going to be very low because of now there is no income. Decrease in self-respect and confidence, that is that. Poor physical and psychological health. So that is that. Also, the Effects of unemployment. Now we come to the burden on taxpayers. Burden on taxpayers. Large amounts of money are paid out by the state as a social welfare grants for the unemployed and poor people. See, now the government has to pay what? To pay grants to these people who are unemployed or these people who are poor now. So that is a burden on taxpayers. This amount is not suitable in the long term. And if government increases taxes in order to subsidize these grants, it will have a negative effect on the economic growth, and will discourage foreign investment in the new business. So people will not want to invest into a country whereby now the economy of that country is very low. So that will discourage the foreign investors to come to such a country. So this happens whereby now people find themselves without jobs, and this puts a burden on taxpayers, because now the tax will end up being increased so that the government will be able to try by all means to meet the needs of these people who are very poor, who are not employed, and that affect what? The economy of the country, and that discourage what? The investors, the foreign investors. That is that. So now let us come to the social problems. Now we are on social problems. Poverty that is created by unemployment leads to serious social problems such as increased levels of crime. That is true. People tend to steal now, they will end up stealing because now for them to find something to eat, it also results in lack of self-esteem and causes financial worries, which can lead to domestic violence and destroy family life. Unemployed people are dissatisfied, so they are more likely to express the discontent about government policy in general through demonstrations and riots. So that is that. Now we come to the additional part of our essay. Now we come to our additional part of our essay. As it says, public works projects create jobs for construction workers, engineers, and other professionals. Public works investment can stimulate economic growth, leading to increased demand for goods and services and creating new job opportunities. So if the public works try by all means to create jobs, so that will make people to spend more, and that will help what the economy of the country to grow. These projects can improve infrastructure, making it easier for business to operate and creating a conducive environment for economic growth. It can provide training, skills development opportunities for workers, enhancing their employability. So it will provide training for workers so that it will be easy for them to access jobs. Also, public work programs can serve as a social protection mechanism, providing income support for vulnerable populations during the economic downturns. Public works spending can have multiplier effect, generating additional economic activity and job creation through the supply chain. Also, public work programs can focus on rural areas, creating jobs and stimulating economic growth in regions with higher unemployment rates. So that is the additional part. Then we have to come to this essay of us, where it says South African's poverty is mainly caused by unemployment, and the country will need a sophisticated solution to reduce unemployment levels. So that is that. Accept any other correct and relevant response. So this is the end of our presentation. And great, make use of this presentation, as it will help you a lot when you're writing your essay with the coming exams that you are going to write. Please share with others, and please don't forget to hit the subscription button. Thank you very much.